Folks, sellers, it seems, are rushing to the exits, but many can't get out. I'll explain what I mean and then get into the latest home prices and insights for the City of Toronto for week ending June the 12th, 2024. So, on June the 5th, Bank of Canada lowered their rates. And the week after that, which is this week ending June the 12th, listings are through the roof. Across the GTA, listings are way up. Now, June is not typically, especially the second half of June, it's not typically a big listing month. When we think about listings and we talk about, when we look back at history, we've seen February, March, April, May, all that at 1 year or another really being the spring market. Sometimes into the beginning of June, but usually it's not typical that at the end of June we see an influx of listings. So I can only conclude that for some reason sellers were thinking, maybe on advice from their realtors or maybe their own thoughts, that man, once the Bank of Canada lowers their rates, prices are going to shoot through the roofs, buyers are going to come back. This is the time to be on the market. And that's what sellers have done. I'll show you when we get into the data. Listings are way up. We recently listed and sold a property. Now, when we got onto the market, there were 5, 6 other listings in the area, and they've been sitting there. And in calling these other agents, saying, hey, what's happening? They're telling me how the market is dead. There's nothing going on. I can tell you, though, we listed and sold in 2 days. Not just me. There was another property at the same time that we listed. They actually listed the day before. They were listed and sold in 2 days also. So there is a way of selling. And we didn't give, and neither did the other property. It's not like we gave it away for free. We did what we were supposed to do. We looked at the situation. You could see other properties are sitting there. How do we make our listing stand out? And that's what the other agent did, and it worked for the both of us. And you're going to see, if you're planning to come onto the market, there's a good chance you're seeing more listings in your neighborhood today than last month. If you go out and you do what everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same results as everybody else. But it seems that's what's been the seller's mentality, that right now is the right time, and a bunch of them have come onto the market. Well, we're also fortunate enough to work not just with sellers, but we work with buyers. And I can tell you, the experience with both right now is very different. Sellers have come on thinking this is the great time. I can tell you, competition, the more competition you have, it doesn't have a way of bringing up prices. It's actually the opposite. More competition has a way of suppressing prices. But anyways, buyers, I know lots of sellers thought that tons of buyers are going to be on the market now because the Bank of Canada dropped their rates by a quarter point. It's not necessarily the case. And I can tell you just in the behavior with the buyers we're working with, where maybe last month I would send them 4, 5, or 6 properties that match their criteria. They'd want to see all 6 and pick and choose and have a really good idea of what's going on there. And that would be normal behavior. But today there's more properties to send them. I could easily send a buyer 7, 8, 9, 10 properties that match their search criteria in one way or another. And the buyers on their own are picking 3. They're not looking to see all 10. They're picking 3 of the best properties. Those are the ones we're going to see. The other properties, nobody's going to see. They're sitting there. And that's kind of we see it on the selling side also, on the listing side. There's properties sitting there and others selling quick. Buyers are not going to see every single property that's out there. They're becoming more choosy. That's a big difference that I'm seeing right now. I'd love to say there's a ton more buyers. No, that's not the case. But the ones that are out there, the ones that are buying, there are buyers ready to buy. They're being more picky. They're being more choosy. They don't even want to waste time going to see properties that are not really something that they want to see. That's the big difference that we're seeing after the interest rate change. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. Excuse me, pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. There's a link up here to my calendar. There's a link below in the description to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. We're going to start off with a monthly report. This is for the City of Toronto, detached properties only. Now, I'm stressing this because there's all sorts of announcements you hear from time to time in the media, and they'll say, we're up since last month or we're down since last month. And I hear the same reports. And the first thing that comes to mind is, what numbers are you actually looking at? Is that for all sales, all home types? Is it for a specific group? Is it for a specific area? Is it just for Toronto? Is it all GTA? Like, there's so many questions that come to mind. So what I do on this show is break it down a lot more specific. So this is for the City of Toronto only. It's for detached properties only. And I've got these numbers here are monthly numbers. Now, my regular show, which we're about to get into right after this, is weekly data. But this one slide is broken down by month. Many of you ask, can we see it on a monthly basis? So here we go. So I've got sales broken down by month. The most recent full month is May 2024. So we got May, 851 detached properties were sold. And if we look at this year, every month, sales have increased. And if we look back, we can see I've got all the way May for 2020. I mean, remember 2020, what happened with, the start of the health crisis, March, April, May, we were just kind of starting to, I wouldn't even say figure out what was going on, but middle of March was the month, then April, then May. We're kind of starting to figure out that, hey, maybe we can go out a little bit. But things really picked up after May back then. But we're here now. And if we look at May, there's all sorts of different numbers for May. But 851 is the strongest month so far this year. And every month sales have increased so far. Let's look at average sold price. $1,826,000 is the average sold price for the month of May for detached properties in the City of Toronto. And that also, since the beginning of the year, has increased every single month. So average price has increased. I know we've been hearing so much about how sluggish the market is and how prices are down and, oh man, things are way cheaper than before now. Many people are still also saying it's not cheap enough, and everybody's right in their own way. But the reality is that average prices have been increased for detached properties since the beginning of the year. If we compare to where the average price was a year ago, I've got in the yellow here, we are down 4.5%. If we want to go back, we have to increase our prices by 4.8%. I really break it down into the nitty gritty. But generally speaking, we are lower by about 5% from where prices were a year ago. 5%. If we compare to the previous year, to 2022, we're also lower by about 5%. So over the last 2 years, we're down, I'm going to say, only about 5%. If we compare to 2021, we are actually up about 6%. And if we go back to 2022, well, then, you're talking 25, 26, 27% difference. But over the last 2-3 years, it's only a 6% difference lower average sold price. So the market hasn't bottomed out. It hasn't gone absolutely, rock bottom prices yet. But I can also tell you that a lot of that maybe is going to be changing soon, because we study the numbers on a weekly basis. And once we get into the next few slides, we can already see for June, the first couple of weeks in June, average sold price, and even the last few weeks or so of May, average sold price has started to trend down. So we'll see those numbers. Let's get right into that actually. So for the city of Toronto, we've got average sold prices. Condos, we're not talking about condos in this show. That's a whole other show. But the difference between condo average price and detached average price is it's close to $1 million. $991,000 is the difference in average sold prices. Let's get started with the detached market. So for week ending June the 12th, 199 detached properties were sold across the city of Toronto. Looking at sales, look, there's a few weeks in there where sales dropped a bit, but around 200, we've been there for a few weeks in a row now. So sales is actually quite steady if we look at the last 4, 5, 6 weeks going back. 50 of those properties, so about a quarter, about 25% of those properties sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price, when we were looking at the May average sold price, 1.8 to high 1.8. Well, over the last 3-4 weeks, we've been just over 1.7. And for week ending June 12th, we're sitting at 1,722,000. Unless the second half of June goes way up in average sold price, we're going to see June's average sold price fall over the previous month. And that'll be the first time this year when we compare month over month that prices actually come down. Hasn't happened yet, but it's kind of in the cards a little bit when I look at it this way. So average sold price, $1,722,000. That's 6% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 10% lower. And if we look at the dotted line of 4-week moving average, I've got 3 months on the board here, broken down by week. Average price and median price up to about the middle of May, we're trending up. And since the middle of May to where we are now over the last 4 weeks or so, looks like prices are trending down. 199 were sold, a bit more than half, 54% sold at list price or more. So the market is still somewhat competitive. Listings, here's the big story here. 1 week to the next, listings of detached properties increased by 30%. 589 detached properties were listed. Now, remember, June the 5th, that's when the Bank of Canada increased or decreased their rates. That was the big announcement that a lot of people were waiting for. Well, sellers have jumped on board. 589 detached properties were listed. That's a 30% increase over the previous week. Active listings is also climbing. We have over 2,053 actually active listings of detached properties available for sale. Months of inventory, sales are up, active listings. Months of inventory works out to be 2.4 months of inventory. Previous week was 2.7, 2.1. The previous week was 3. If we kind of go back to the beginning of the 3-month cycle I have on the board, months of inventory is a bit higher now than it was before. And with an increase in listings, increase in active listings, we can, and if sales don't change or don't go up, we're going to see months of inventory start to climb even more. Here's Toronto broken down into 9 different sections. And when we look at it, months of inventory for the whole city is 2.4. There's some areas really outperforming the whole Toronto. I mean, Scarborough sitting at 1.8 months of inventory. 59% of those properties sold at list price or more. Riverdale Beaches, 1.4 months of inventory. That's really low, very competitive. Etobicoke, we recently purchased a property. It wasn't an inexpensive property. It was $4 million plus. There were 3 offers on this luxury property of $4 million plus. You don't think of it. Sometimes we just get caught up in thinking of, 1.5 and somewhere there, or 1 million. And you look at some of these average sold prices of 1.1 and 1.1 over here also. But some of these areas, think about it. York Mills, Rosedale, the average sold price is over $3 million. That's the average. And a third, more than a third, are selling at list price or more. There's competition in some of these luxury properties. Up here in Willowdale, Bayview Village area, half of the properties are selling at list price or more. Average sold price is over almost 2.2 million. So all of Toronto is not the same. There's so many different neighborhoods, different behavior, different price point. You really got to understand what's happening in these different areas to properly make choices and decisions that's best for you and your family. Let's look at semi-detached properties. Sales for the last 3 weeks have been coming down. We're now sitting at 52 semis that were sold for week ending June the 12th. 15 of those were at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price sitting at $1,392,000. To me, it looks like average sold prices are climbing. We can go back further to say March to February. Average sold prices climbing. Sure, every now and then you're going to get a week that's out of whack, both on the high end or on the low end. You get rid of the low end, you get rid of the high end. Average sold price to me for semis is climbing. Compared to last year, $1,392,000 is 6% lower. The median price is 16% lower. And I've put average sold prices climbing, but when you kind of look at the extra low median price, it kind of shows that the last few weeks are trending down. Probably not. Months of inventory slowly, gradually is climbing, sitting at 1.7 months of inventory right now. 65% of all semis that sold at list price or more. Townhouses, only 13, these are freehold townhouses, only 13 of them sold across all the city of Toronto. 2 of them were at $1.5 million or more. Average sold price is $1,274,000. 1,274 is no change from where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 14% higher versus the median price a year ago. And months of inventory climbing, now sitting at 3.6 months of inventory. Here's a quick summary. We are at the top end of a seller's market. You're going to experience, you're going to experience a balanced market in a lot of areas. You're going to experience also a seller's market in a lot of areas. Some areas, sometimes it's going to be a little bit or more of an extreme seller's market. I know it sounds crazy me saying that, but that's what you're going to experience across the city of Toronto when you're looking to buy a detached property. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.